Countries around the world, social and human rights organizations are welcoming the agreement between the resistance movement Hamas and Israel for a ceasefire and peace in the Gaza Strip. Through a statement, the Bolivarian government of Venezuela formally requested an urgent meeting of the United Nations Security Council, given the serious escalation of aggressions and unprecedented military deployment by the United States in the Caribbean. And the World Food Programme issued a dramatic alert to the international community about the imminent risk of famine in Haiti. Hello and welcome to From the South. My name is Belén de los Santos, and from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba, we begin with the news. And we begin with the information precisely in the Gaza Strip, because regardless of the recent ceasefire announcement, Israeli occupation forces continue to attack the Palestinian people. Reportedly, 3 citizens were killed and several others were injured by Israeli strikes across Khan Yunis in the southern Gaza Strip. Moreover, medical sources reported that 17 Palestinians were confirmed dead in hospitals across the Gaza Strip since the early hours of Thursday, as Israel's bombardment continued. In this context, Palestinian authorities have urged the population to be cautious when moving around and called on them to remain alert until the suspension of military operations is confirmed to avoid further deaths and injuries. And in this context, Palestinians in the occupied West Bank also welcomed the ceasefire agreement while remaining cautious over Israel's next steps.
God willing, this agreement will be completed, first and foremost to serve the interests of the people of Gaza and the Palestinian people. Enough killing, enough destruction, enough displacement. God willing, it will be implemented. But based on what we've seen throughout history, we know that the Israelis neither keep promises nor commitments, and we fear that they might break the agreement after they retrieve their prisoners. Either way, no matter the agreement, it is better than the ongoing bloodshed. Whatever its terms, it is still the best available option. The most important thing now is to stop this bloodshed. God willing, the signing today will lead to positive outcomes.
And precisely in this context, countries around the world, as we were saying, social and human rights organizations as well, are welcoming this agreement between the resistance movement Hamas and Israel for a ceasefire and hopefully lasting peace in the Gaza Strip. After 3 days of negotiations in Egypt, Israel and Hamas agreed to sign and implement a peace plan for the Gaza Strip, an agreement reached through the mediation of Egypt, Qatar, Turkey, and the United States. In this regard, Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas expressed his hope for a political and permanent solution to end the Israeli occupation and establish a Palestinian state. A meeting to discuss the approval of the ceasefire deal is ongoing at the Israeli Security Cabinet. And President Recep Tayyip Erdogan said that Turkey will participate in a task force to oversee the implementation of the ceasefire deal.
After yesterday's agreement, thank God, the signatures were made today. We are very pleased with the agreement to which we actively contributed from the very beginning. We, as Turkey, will hopefully also take part in the task force that will monitor the implementation of the agreement on the ground. We will support reconstruction activities together with the international community to help Gaza rise again. Our goal is to stop the genocide and bring peace to the region as soon as possible.
Meanwhile, in Brazil, social organizations mobilized to denounce the complicity of large corporations in the genocide taking place in the Gaza Strip. During a day of protest in Sao Paulo, the Solidarity Movement for the Palestinian Cause gathered in front of the headquarters of Folha de São Paulo, one of the city's most important newspapers, to question the media coverage of the genocide. In the scenario, activists condemned the complicity of the media in the historical process of the colonization of Palestine and denounced how large transnational corporations benefit from genocidal actions. The demonstration also paid tribute to journalists killed in Gaza by Israeli attacks. Meanwhile, on Thursday, the Cuban people also mobilized to condemn the massacre that the Zionist Israeli government has been carrying out against Palestine for over 2 years. The popular mobilization took place at the José Martí Anti-Imperialist Tribune with the presence of the first secretary of the Central Committee of the Communist Party and President of the Republic, Miguel Díaz-Canel Bermúdez, and other members of the political bureau. At the gathering, Palestinian students denounced the genocide and ethnic cleansing strategy perpetrated by Israeli occupation forces throughout Gaza. In the scenario, Cubans demanded compliance with international agreements on the right of Palestinians to have their own state and the implementation of actions that would bring lasting peace to the Middle East. Precisely in this regard, during the Solidarity event in Havana, the young Palestinian woman Razan Malek shared her hope that the world would also understand the meaning of sacrifice and the struggle for freedom of the Palestinian people.
I remember one day when soldiers surrounded my grandmother's house. The entire neighborhood was covered with guns pointed at our house, looking for my uncle. When my grandmother saw what was happening, she came out and, without fear, in the midst of all those soldiers, she shouted with pride, with tears and with strength, "Long live free Palestine! Long live my 5 heroic sons, my revolutionary sons." Since then, I have understood what sacrifice, courage, and love for the land mean. I have learned that there are people willing to lose everything, even their freedom, to defend what is right. My grandmother's words still echo in my ears.
And also in Cuba, women and men from the island and 12 other countries gathered in the Marianao neighborhood in Havana to express their strong solidarity with the Palestinian people. We were there to share the story. International solidarity and ongoing resistance. Those were the key elements that gave life to this festival. Music, poetry, arts and crafts brought together a number of Cuban organizations all ready to express their continued support to the Palestinian cause, as October marks 2 years of genocide in Gaza at the hands of Israel and the complicity of many Western powers.
It is a question of humanity, of knowing right from wrong, and knowing what stance to take, a radical stance in favor of the end of death and also of murder.
Yo creo que hay una sensibilidad.
I think there is a sensibility in young Cubans. That's genetic, thanks to this revolution and its internationalism that comes out in the face of injustice and pain of this magnitude, coming from the genocide that the State of Israel is committing against the Palestinian people.
Internationalist activists from 13 countries took part in the event. An idea comes up time and time again, that a wound as deep as the one inflicted against the Palestinians affects us all, can be felt by all, and demands global action to continue fighting for the future of humanity.
First, community is what gives us power, and it also is what nourishes us in hard times. And so we're looking at 2 years of a genocide. We're looking at a lot of destruction and a lot of pain. And so coming together from across the world in community with food, with song, with art, we really realize that there are people around the world who care about this, who are standing up for this, and who are not going to let the genocide go happening as it has been without fighting back.
Here, solidarity takes different forms. From the collective of women who have decided to shave their heads to raise awareness, to the joint reading of poetry that carries the pain and resilience of Gaza halfway across the world. Ghassan is a Palestinian doctor trained in Cuba, and he takes the mic to thank the warm embrace of everyone present.
Once again, Cuba shows in practice the revolutionary character, its revolutionary principles. Cuba has always been for justice, close to the Palestinian cause, and from here we need to always raise our voices. Multiply our actions in favor of peace and the sovereignty of our peoples.
The words of Cuban Silvio Rodriguez and Argentine Maria Elena Walsh fill the air in songs that speak of hope and the importance of ongoing fighting against oppression around the world. In their voices, Latin America joins Gaza in its struggle for a free Palestine from this corner of the Marianao neighborhood in Havana. Belén de los Santos for teleSUR English, Havana, Cuba. And now we have a short break coming up. But first, remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back from the South. We continue with more information. The Cuban Ministry of Foreign Affairs reiterated its denunciation of the escalation of aggressions by the government of the United States against Venezuela and the false narratives promoted to justify this offensive. It also called on the international community to mobilize to stop this criminal escalation. Through a statement, the Cuban Ministry of Foreign Affairs expressed that Cuba has been alerting about the growing escalation of the United States government against the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela, whose obvious goal is to overthrow the constitutional government of President Nicolás Maduro Moros and install a government that serves the United States and puts the country's oil and other important natural resources, as well as its own sovereignty, at its disposal. In this regard, the text emphasized that Cuba is making a new call to mobilize the international community to stop an armed attack on Venezuela. Once again, we declare our firm and unshakable support for the Bolivarian and Chavista government of Venezuela and the popular and military unity of the Venezuelan people. Latin America and the Caribbean must remain a zone of peace. And through another statement, the Bolivarian government of Venezuela formally requested an urgent meeting of the United Nations Security Council, given the serious escalation of aggressions and unprecedented military deployment by the United States in the Caribbean. The statement says that based on proven, reasonable, and objective information, this letter confirms that a U.S. military attack on the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela could occur in the very near future. The ongoing military mobilization, the escalation of hostile and provocative actions, and the increasingly incendiary rhetoric confirm this. This constitutes a violation of the letter and spirit of the Tlatelolco Treaty, to which the United States of America has legally binding obligations as a contracting party to its protocols 1 and 2, as well as a clear affront to the proclamation of Latin America and the Caribbean as a zone of peace. It also states that Venezuela is not a threat to anyone and that we are a country in perfect social peace without any conflict with third parties. Despite the unilateral aggression we are currently experiencing, we reiterate our firm commitment to dialogue and diplomacy as the only means of resolving any differences and preserving peace. Furthermore, we reaffirm the Venezuelan people's unwavering determination to defend in perfect civil-military union the most sacred treasure they have reclaimed after 200 years, the national independence. And in other news, Venezuelan Vice President and the Minister of Hydrocarbons, Delcy Rodriguez, is taking part on the 14th International Gas Forum underway in the Russian city of St. Petersburg. At the event, Rodriguez highlighted that the position of Venezuela holds in the international gas scenario, possessing the 24% of planet's energy and the largest gas reserves in the American continent. The Venezuelan Vice President expressed her concern about the increase in energy demand and the outlook for the global gas industry and highlighted the importance of the gas pipeline construction project between Russia and China to provide a better flow of gas and therefore reduce gas export within Europe. Moreover, Rodriguez emphasized on the significance of signing the Strategic Association Treaty between Russia and Venezuela to strengthen bilateral cooperation.
Venezuela is already working on projects with major transnational gas companies to export its first molecule. It is worth noting that Russia has investments in offshore gas in Venezuela, and we would like to end by highlighting the signing of the Strategic Partnership and Cooperation Agreement between Russia and Venezuela, which will allow our strategic energy relationship to consolidate, grow, and project itself into a future of happiness for our peoples.
And precisely in Venezuela, President Nicolás Maduro stated that the country is consolidating itself as an epicenter of hope for the world as he welcomed the delegates of the World Congress in defense of Mother Earth. President Nicolás Maduro held a meeting with the delegates of the World Congress in defense of Mother Earth, where he accused the world powers of denying the true climate emergency. In the sense, the president emphasized the urgent need for all nations to act together to stop global pollution and preserve life on the planet. The Congress was attended by 173 international delegates from 62 countries and 1,151 national delegates representing social movements and eco-socialist communes, where crucial topics for environmental protection and eco-socialism were addressed.
Between documents that were signed, diplomacy of the deceit, not fulfilling agreements, more contamination, more emissions. But now it is worse because it has happened a powerful current with a lot of political and economical and communicational and military power that are the supremacists of the North that want to impose the negation, and that would be the end of the human species on Earth. So our fight now is renewing to stop the supremacists that deny, and also to implement from the people and from the governments of a popular character the measures of attention, mitigation, and answering to the phenomenon of the climate emergency that the planet is currently going through.
Now in other news, the president of Costa Rica, Rodrigo Chavez, could face immediate impeachment under electoral law for crimes of political belligerency. According to local media, the Costa Rican president could be sanctioned with disqualification from holding public office for a period of between 2 to 4 years. Electoral law requires the head of state to remain objective during the electoral process, which is why the Supreme Electoral Court ordered the suspension of the Government Council's press conferences. The investigation for political belligerence brings together 15 of the 24 complaints pending against Rodrigo Chavez. And we have a second short break coming up, but before we invite you to visit our Facebook page at teleSUR English, there you'll be able to watch our top stories, special live coverages, and much more. Follow our page and activate notifications to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Final short break, don't go away. Welcome back from the South. We continue with more information. The World Food Programme issued a dramatic alert to the international community about the imminent risk of famine in Haiti. Currently, 5.7 million people, more than half of the country's total population, are facing critical levels of food insecurity. of which 2.1 million are at the most serious level, classified as an emergency. Reports indicate that armed groups are now controlling nearly 90% of the capital city, preventing the population from acquiring food and pushing the most vulnerable families directly into famine. This forces many to reduce their meals and consume very low-quality products, causing malnutrition rates to skyrocket. The violence has also led to the displacement of 1.3 million people, with more than half of those displaced being children, further aggravating child malnutrition rates. And in this context, the UNICEF Regional Director for Latin America and the Caribbean, Roberto Venes, warned about the serious humanitarian crisis facing Haitian children. A UNICEF report informed that the number of children forced to flee their homes due to the violence in Haiti has doubled. At least 680,000 children have been displaced due to hunger, abuse, and the risk of being recruited by criminal groups. Also, UNICEF highlighted that violence has forced the closure of more than 1,600 institutions in the last school year, affecting 243,400 students and 7,548 teachers. In addition, 84 schools are being used as improvised shelters. And in Ecuador, the indigenous movement marks 18 consecutive days of protest triggered by the increase in the price of diesel, while the government refuses to address the demands. The government reported that a group of Ecuadorians caused damage to some presidential vehicles during protests, an incident that led to the arrest of at least 5 civilians. In this scenario, the Confederation of Indigenous Nationalities rejected the accusation made by President Daniel Noboa and questioned the level of security under his command. In this regard, the indigenous movement pointed out that the state must provide security guarantees for the president without exposing him to the civilian population during tours as a political provocation. The indigenous people stated that they will continue protesting until the government opens dialogue to address the country's problems. And more on Venezuela, the Alberto de Paz y Mateos Theater in Caracas became the venue for a Latin American theater meeting as part of the commemoration of the 40th anniversary of the Teatrela Collective. The program, which will run until October 12th, pays tribute to the diversity of the performing arts in the region and includes a discussion on the state of these arts in Latin America. The celebration will feature the presentation of the play The Gods and the Goodbyes, directed by Costa Palamides, and will include excerpts from iconic works such as Rabina Laji, Ollantay, and texts by authors, as well as traditional Caribbean songs and poems by renowned writers. And the 2025 Nobel Prize in Literature was awarded to Hungarian author Laszlo Krasznahorkai. On Thursday, the Swedish Academy announced that Krasznahorkai won the prize for his compelling and visionary offer that is in the midst of an apocalyptic terror reaffirms the power of art. The Hungarian novelist, short story writer, and essayist is the author of books such as Melancholy of Resistance, Satan Tango, and War and War. Krasznahorkai is recognized for his distinctive style, which combines absurd and contemplation. And like this, we have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. Also join us on social media. We are on Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok as well. For TeleSUR English, my name is Belén de los Santos. Thank you for watching.